For the last 5 years, the GLP-1 revolution came with a needle. Every week, same day, same routine. Draw the dose, inject into the stomach or thigh. Wait for nausea to pass. Repeat. For millions of people, that routine was the price of access to the most effective class of weight loss drugs ever developed. And for tens of millions more, it was the exact reason they never started. Fewer than 1 in 10 people who could clinically benefit from a GLP-1 medication are currently taking one. Not because the drugs don't work, the data on that is unambiguous, but because of 3 barriers that have nothing to do with science: access, stigma, and the perceived complexity of treatment. And the biggest practical barrier of all, the one nobody talks about in clinical trials, is that a significant number of people simply will not inject themselves. Not once a week, not once a day, not under any circumstances. That barrier just got removed. The oral GLP-1 revolution. How a daily pill just changed the weight loss industry forever. Before we talk about what changed, we need to understand what the needle problem actually was. It was not just about pain. The needles used for GLP-1 injections are small. Most people describe the actual injection as barely noticeable. The problem was psychological, logistical, and systemic all at once. Psychologically, needle aversion is a clinically documented phenomenon, affecting somewhere between 20 and 30% of the general population. For these individuals, the anticipation of injection, regardless of pain level, triggers anxiety responses significant enough to prevent consistent use or first use entirely. 20–30% of people have clinically significant needle aversion. Logistically, injectable GLP-1s require refrigeration, careful handling, consistent weekly scheduling, and training on proper technique. For people who travel frequently, live in unstable housing, or have conditions affecting manual dexterity, these requirements create real barriers. A drug that worked. A barrier that didn't have to exist. Why oral GLP-1s took 25 years for 2.5 decades, and why solving it required 2 completely different approaches. GLP-1 receptor agonists are peptides, chains of amino acids, and the human digestive system is extraordinarily efficient at destroying amino acid chains before they reach the bloodstream. For an oral pill, the entire digestive gauntlet has to be navigated somehow. Left, injectable, direct line from skin to bloodstream. Right, oral, obstacle course through stomach, enzymes, intestinal wall, absorption through the stomach lining. Novo Nordisk's solution, the one that led to the Wegovy pill, was to pair the semaglutide molecule with a compound called SNAC, sodium N-salcaprosate. SNAC is an absorption enhancer that creates a temporary protective microenvironment in the stomach, essentially a small chemical buffer zone that allows semaglutide to survive the digestive environment and absorb through the stomach lining. SNAC, sodium N-salcaprosate. It works, but it comes with a significant catch. The SNAC mechanism is extremely sensitive to interference. Food, other beverages, and even certain medications disrupt the absorption window completely, which is why oral semaglutide must be taken every morning on an empty stomach with no more than 4 ounces of plain water and then nothing else, food or drink, for at least 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Empty stomach. Water only. Every single morning. Non-negotiable. Eli Lilly took a fundamentally different approach, and the result? Foundeo solved the fasting problem entirely. More on that shortly. Part 3. Wegovy pill. What it is, what it does, what it costs. On December 22, 2025, the FDA approved what had been considered impossible for most of GLP-1's history, the Wegovy pill. Once-daily oral semaglutide at 25 milligrams became the first oral GLP-1 receptor agonist therapy approved specifically for weight management. The results were significant enough to force a serious rethink of oral drug limitations. 16.6% mean weight loss with full treatment adherence. 13.6% mean weight loss regardless of adherence. 2.7% placebo, full adherence. With full treatment adherence, oral semaglutide 25 milligrams produced 16.6% mean weight loss at 64 weeks. For context, that is comparable to what injectable Wegovy at 2.4 milligrams produces. Oral Wegovy pill, around 16.6% weight loss, full adherence. Injectable Wegovy, 2.4 milligrams, 15% weight loss. Comparable results, 0 needles. 1/3 of participants who fully adhered to treatment achieved at least 20% weight loss, compared to under 3% with placebo. There is something important to acknowledge here about the gap between 16.6% and 13.6%. The difference between those two numbers is adherence. Full adherence, taking the pill correctly on an empty stomach every single morning without missing doses, produces significantly better results than real-world inconsistent use. That gap will be one of the defining questions of the oral GLP-1 era. A pill is more convenient than an injection. Whether it is more consistently used remains to be seen in the real-world data that is still being generated right now. Injectable Wegovy pill, approximately $1,349 per month. List price. Oral Wegovy pill, starting dose, $149 per month. Novo Nordisk launched the Wegovy pill at a starting dose of 1.5 milligrams with a cash pay price of $149 per month. That number deserves a moment. $149 per month versus $1,349 per month for injectable Wegovy. The price difference is not a minor convenience factor. At $149 per month, oral semaglutide becomes accessible to a population that was previously priced out entirely. Telehealth platforms, direct-to-consumer channels, and primary care prescribers can now reach patients who would never have qualified for or afforded the injectable version. The treatment gap, the 1 in 10 statistic, starts to close not when the drug gets better. It starts to close when the drug becomes possible for more people to take. There is a catch. 2 of them, actually. First, the fasting requirement. Every morning, empty stomach, 30 minutes before food, every day. Second, the side effect profile. Because oral semaglutide hits the stomach all at once rather than absorbing slowly through subcutaneous tissue, the gastrointestinal side effects, nausea in particular, may feel more intense with the pill than with the injection. Both are manageable. Neither is trivial. 99 days after Novo Nordisk's Wegovy pill reached pharmacy shelves, Eli Lilly changed the conversation entirely. On April 1st, 2026, the FDA approved Foundayo, or orforglipron, for adults with obesity or overweight with weight-related medical problems. But Foundayo is not just another oral GLP-1. It is a fundamentally different kind of molecule, and that difference solves the single biggest practical limitation of oral semaglutide. Left, semaglutide, labeled peptide-based, complex chain structure. Right, orforglipron, labeled small molecule non-peptide, simpler, compact structure. Orforglipron is a non-peptide small molecule GLP-1 receptor agonist. Every other GLP-1 drug currently on the market, injectable or oral, is a peptide, a chain of amino acids that mimics the body's natural GLP-1 hormone. Orforglipron does not work that way. It is a small synthetic molecule that activates the same GLP-1 receptor through an entirely different chemical structure. Not a peptide. A small molecule that activates the same receptor. Same target, completely different approach. Because it is not a peptide, orforglipron does not require the absorption enhancers like SNAC that oral semaglutide depends on. SNAC is what creates the fasting requirement. Its mechanism is disrupted by food and beverages. Orforglipron's small molecule structure circumvents this pharmacokinetic limitation entirely. Oral Wegovy, semaglutide. Foundeo, orforglipron. Empty stomach required, no fasting required. 30 minutes before food, any time of day. Water only, any beverage. Peptide-based molecule, small molecule. About 16.6% weight loss adherent, about 12.4% weight loss, highest dose. $149 per month starting, pricing being negotiated. The practical implication is significant. People living with obesity need treatment options that meet them where they are, and for many, a once-daily pill that can be taken with no food or water restrictions offers greater flexibility in how they approach treatment. No alarm set for 6 a.m. No waiting 30 minutes before coffee. No carrying a separate water bottle for the morning dose. Take it whenever, with breakfast, with dinner, with nothing. It does not matter. The FDA approved Foundeo under the Commissioner's National Priority Voucher Pilot Program, cleared in just 50 days after filing. It was the fastest approval of a new molecular entity since 2002. That speed is not just a regulatory footnote. It signals how the FDA is now categorizing the urgency of oral obesity treatment options. The treatment gap is large enough that accelerated access has become a public health priority. 50 days from filing to approval. Fastest new molecular entity approval since 2002. The ATTAIN-1 trial that supports the approval enrolled 3,127 adults, one of the largest oral obesity drug trials ever conducted. Results showed weight loss of 7.8% with 6 milligrams, 9.3% with 12 milligrams, and 12.4% with the highest 36 milligram dose at 72 weeks. 6 milligrams, 7.8%. 12 milligrams, 9.3%. 36 milligrams, 12.4%. 12.4% at the highest dose, over 72 weeks. That number matters, and we are going to come back to exactly what it means compared to injectable options, because it is the number that reveals both the promise and the honest limitation of where oral GLP-1s currently stand. This is the comparison everyone wants to see, and the data deserves to be presented without spin in either direction. Foundeo, or orforglipron 36 milligrams, 12.4%. Wegovy pill, semaglutide 25 milligrams, 13.6%, 16.6% adherent. Injectable Wegovy, semaglutide 2.4 milligrams, about 15%. Injectable Zepbound, tirzepatide, 20 to 22.5%. Retatrutide, not yet approved, about 24%. Color coding, pills in teal, injectables in gray, future pipeline in amber dotted. The oral options, both of them, currently produce meaningfully less weight loss than the best injectable options. Lilly's Zepbound helped people lose an average of 22.5% of their body weight at 72 weeks in clinical trials. Retatrutide, not yet approved, reached 24% average weight loss at 48 weeks. The gap between 12.4% and 22.5% is not a rounding error. On a 250-pound person, that is the difference between losing 31 pounds and losing 56 pounds. Foundeo result, minus 31 pounds. Injectable Zepbound result, minus 56 pounds. So why does this matter for the people who could be taking the injectable and choosing the pill instead? It matters because the question is not which drug produces more weight loss in a clinical trial. The question is, which drug produces more weight loss in the real world, over the long term, in actual human beings who have to take it consistently? Injectable GLP-1s have a documented adherence problem. Multiple real-world studies have found that a substantial portion of people discontinue injectable GLP-1s within the first year, for reasons ranging from side effects to cost to injection fatigue. A drug with slightly lower peak efficacy that people actually take every year will produce better long-term outcomes than a drug with higher peak efficacy that people stop taking after 6 months. The oral GLP-1 bet is fundamentally an adherence bet. The hypothesis is that removing the needle barrier will increase long-term treatment persistence, and that the real-world efficacy gap between oral and injectable will be smaller than the clinical trial gap suggests. Whether that hypothesis is correct is a question the next several years of real-world data will answer. Based on the clinical profiles, the pricing, and the practical characteristics of both oral options, here is who these drugs are actually designed to reach. Previously, no treatment option they would accept. Now, a daily pill that delivers meaningful weight loss. BMI 27 to 35. Some comorbidities. Not yet at severity for aggressive intervention. A lower cost, lower intensity oral option fits. $149 per month accessible without specialist referral. Already lost significant weight on injectable. Transitioning to oral for long-term maintenance. Orforglipron's Attain-Maintain trial showed it helped people maintain weight loss after switching from injectable GLP-1 therapy. Never made it to a specialist, now reachable through their regular doctor or telehealth. The convenience of a daily pill lowers barriers to starting and staying on treatment long-term. Critically, these drugs are not necessarily replacing injectables for the patients who are already on injectables and achieving strong results. They are opening the door for the 90% of eligible patients who were never going to start with a needle. That is the market opportunity the pharmaceutical companies are targeting, and it is the public health opportunity that the treatment gap data has been screaming about for years. Every breakthrough deserves an honest accounting. Here are the limitations that are not making the press releases. Limitation 1. The fasting requirement is not trivial. Oral semaglutide requires 30 minutes empty stomach every morning. Studies show that food reduces semaglutide absorption dramatically. Inconsistent adherence to this requirement will reduce real-world results significantly below the clinical trial numbers. Limitation 2. Oral options are less potent than the best injectables. 12.4% Foundayo and around 16.6% Wegovy pill adherent versus 22.5% injectable Zepbound. For patients who need maximum weight loss for severe obesity-related health complications, the injectable options remain superior. The same 20–40% lean tissue loss risk that exists with injectable GLP-1s applies to oral options. Resistance training and high protein intake remain non-negotiable, regardless of delivery format. Limitation 4. Long-term data does not exist yet. Oasis 4 ran 64 weeks. Attain 1 ran 72 weeks. What happens at year 3, year 5, year 10? For a drug people may take indefinitely, those are the questions that matter most, and nobody has the answers yet. One more limitation that will become increasingly important as these drugs scale: the stopping problem applies to pills just as it applies to injections. The biology does not care about the delivery mechanism. When GLP-1 activity stops, whether from discontinuing an injection or a pill, hunger hormones return, metabolism adjusts, and the weight regain trajectory we covered in our previous video begins. A pill is more convenient to take. It is also more convenient to stop. Whether that convenience cuts both ways, increasing both initiation and discontinuation, is one of the defining questions this generation of oral GLP-1 data will have to answer. The oral GLP-1 approved in December 2025 and April 2026 are not the finish line. They are the starting gun. Every major pharmaceutical company with the resources to compete is now racing to develop oral formulations with the efficacy of the best injectables, without the limitations of current oral technology. The commercial incentive is enormous. The GLP-1 market was valued at approximately $57 million in 2018. By 2022, it had reached $5.7 billion. Some estimates project it reaching $150 billion by 2030.
The oral pill market is the next frontier within that growth. Whoever solves the efficacy-convenience equation, a daily pill that produces 20+% weight loss without fasting requirements, will own the largest single drug market in the history of medicine. That race is happening right now. What this means for you right now. The needle era of GLP-1 therapy is not over. The best weight loss results still come from injectables, and for patients who need maximum efficacy for severe health complications, that remains the clinical recommendation. But the pill era has arrived, and for the hundreds of millions of people who would never have picked up a syringe, it arrived just in time. Whether a daily pill becomes part of your health approach is a conversation for you and your doctor. What you now have is the information to have that conversation properly. No hype, no shortcuts, just the science. If this video helped you understand what just happened in obesity medicine, share it. Most people still don't know these pills exist. Subscribe to What the Health. New video every week.